Hey, another video. Okay. So this is gonna be a tough video, and people aren't gonna like it. Especially art therapists, because they've already said that they don't like the subject. So I'm gonna go where, I guess no one wants to go. Over a year ago, I had an argument with a famous art therapist. And one of my supervisors, actually, ex supervisors from school, from my internship. And we had it out because there was a difference of opinion about coloring pages, coloring books, having coloring pages in the art therapy office. And, well, I try to be as graceful as I can in any argument because, in this case, there is an email trail, and you can see in that email trail that I am nothing but respectful. But as you can see, like, slowly this person starts to become very narcissistic and like have these very weird like moments I where I called this person. Let's say that this is, I know that I've said the name before, but I just don't feel like talking about, like, saying the name today. So I'm like, let's just say Sue Smith. This is not this person's name, but so Sue Smith has a doctorate, and she has a bunch of fucking letters behind her name, which, things that I don't really give a shit about. And she was very aggressive towards me, and I called her Mrs. Smith instead of Dr. Smith. And I think that there's a tactful way to be like, hey, I appreciate your gesture there, but just by the way, remember that I have a doctorate, so please just address me by Dr. Smith. Instead, it was, well, I'm not Mrs. Smith. That's my mother. I didn't get this name because it was like a whole rant about how I called her Mrs. Smith while I was still trying to be very respectful towards her about a difference of opinion. So this is how other fucking therapists treat each other, which I think is like despicable. Also, one of the issues was that Mrs. Smith claimed that everyone, like, so she was trying to go after my licensure, which I'm like, and so one of the things that she was threatening me about, and I told her that it sounded like a threat, and she's like, oh, I would never do that. I'm like, well, I think our conversation here is over. She said something to the effect of, I've looked over your website, you have children's artwork on there. Any person who has had basically a day in court because of children's artwork on their website, or social media or whatnot, have lost their license. I asked her for proof of that, and she said, you need to pay me for a consultation if that's what you're worried about. And I was like, that seems like extortion. And that seems like a threat against my license. And she was like, it was a simple, like, email back that was like, I had no way, that was not my intention. I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand that that's what it seemed like. And she's harassed me on YouTube as well. She's blocked from my page because I'm not having it out again with her. I'm done. So the issue is that I find, I agree with the American Art Therapy Association that doing coloring pages is a therapeutic artistic activity. And they say, this is not art therapy. Well, listen, there's a lot of ways to do art therapy, and we all have, unfortunately, our different opinions of what exactly art therapy is. My definition of what art therapy is creating, not even creating, because that, like, it's an expression of your inner world for the betterment of you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, because there are art therapists who work with cancer patients and people with chronic pain in attempts to reduce their body symptoms. So for me, it's just an expression. And so Sue Smith, her definition was something you create from yourself, that includes that is for, your like mental improvement or whatever. And I think that this gets right into one of those very, very like fine line type of things where how do you know art from not art? Marcel Duchamp, he made this statement with this with this fountain. And what he did was he noticed that people had bought their own canvases or bought canvases from a store, instead of making their own. And there was kind of this like rivalry between the true artists who are making their own, canvases and, using all of the crap that they used to do. And I dated an artist, so I know that like some artists spend days like creating the perfect canvas. And then some artists, they buy their canvases. And this should have been just fine. But his statement was, how can you say that this isn't art if it's already pre-made? And saying that a pre-made piece of art isn't art and it's not creative and it's not coming from who you are is shitty. That's not how this works. And I think that some art therapists are out of touch. I really do. And I think some artists are out of touch. Because I think that we forget. We forget what it was like that first time that we touched art supplies. And I've said very briefly, I did not like the idea of taking art classes because one, they were long. They were like 3 hours long. I don't mind that now, but like at that time that was like, why am I doing art for 3 hours? What am I going to be doing for 3 hours all the time? Like, in this art class. And that I worried about being messy. It was a very big fear for me. Now, as I've said before, if I'm not covered in paint, maybe I should go back to the canvas and start, really getting out there. But I understand that some people, like once they reach age 12, this is the research, once they reach age 12, if they are artistic, that's going to blossom. If they are not artistic, they're never going to touch a piece of art materials again, ever. Because they don't have to, right? Everything from then on is an option. So, you have this, and like, let's say that you have a 40-year-old woman who has not touched any piece of art material since they were 11. You want them to come in and express themselves like as if they are an artist, as if they've been knowledgeable about art therapy, as if like they can just tap into that deep part of them that will focus and be able to express themselves. No, they're probably nervous as hell, and they don't know whether or not they're going to express the right feelings, and they don't know whether or not that they're going to do the right thing. I've had clients just straight up look at me and like, how do I do this? And all I've told them is like, draw a bridge, and they don't know. And for me, I'm like, how hard is it to draw a bridge? Like, draw a couple of lines, like, do you need a reference picture? What's the issue? But like, they just don't know. And like, I think that, starting out at zero, which is coloring pages, is perfectly fine. And honestly, I'd rather have my clients who are resistant and scared to want to do a collage or want to do a coloring page, do at least that to feel like they're expressing themselves, compared to if like they weren't going to do it because they were fearful that they weren't going to express themselves in the right way. And honestly, there's no right way. Like, expressing yourself is perfectly fine. Anything that you do to express yourself, whether it's a dot or whether it's a huge piece of like of clay, of yarn, of darkness on a huge piece of canvas, like go for it. Like, you should be able to choose how you express yourself. It's not up for me to dictate, this is the only way to do art therapy. You aren't doing art therapy. Wouldn't you hate that art therapist? Like, why would you want to be with an art therapist who couldn't understand starting at zero, before the first step? Like, don't go to that therapist. Like, just, and don't even ask, like, don't get that consultation from her. Like, just, no. Like, do what you need to do. And, like, I think that I never thought, as an adult, as a professional, I would have an argument with another adult, another professional, about coloring books. Like, this seems like this was an argument about, like, fucking, like, that 3-year-olds have. Like, you know, that's my, you know, my artistic expression. That's not your artistic expression, you know. And from my perspective, too, like, there's so many different ways to do art that, like, you know, an altered book, that's considered art therapy. That's considered an art project. That's considered a piece of art. And now you're saying, well, it was created before you put something on the page, so that's not really art therapy. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? This doesn't make any sense to me anymore. This is a person who has written books, and I've had to read these fucking books, like, about art therapy. And now this person, the same person, is, you know, fucking, you know, I'm gonna be fucking God over here telling other art therapists how to live their lives. And she felt very threatened by me because I wanted to know what her definition of art therapy was, so that I could understand where our miscommunication was. She felt very threatened by this. And, you know, when someone who's a professional feels like you're threatening them just by trying to understand where they're coming from, like, don't go to that person either. Fuck that person. Like, get that person out of your life. I'm glad that that person no longer contacts me and no longer has an option to contact me. We are done. We are separate. Like, they are blocked on my Facebook. They are blocked on YouTube. Like, we are not having a conversation ever. Because she found my YouTube. She did. And she was like, so did you get your LPAT yet? And I'm like, do you want to take it away? Why would I get something that, you know, you want to talk about how you're, like, this honorary member and of the Connecticut Art Therapy Association, and that you grew up in the area? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to, like, connect with me after you've been an asshole this entire time? Like, no. Like, it still sounds to me like there was a lot of threats and there was a lot of assholish behavior, and I always act like I'm being recorded, especially on emails. Like, I could release those emails any fucking day I want and be like, look how, you know, this person fucking acted, you know, and you would probably be like, oh my God, what the hell, you know. And I'm trying to, like, actually talk about things, and this person's just getting very emotional. And, you know, I'm just like, you're not, like, while you might have been a founding mother of art therapy, and I did have to read your books, maybe your time has passed and maybe you should retire. You know, like, you have your life, you have your lifetime achievement award in art therapy. You have your lifetime, you know, membership to the ADA. You know, you've had your time at ADA being, you know, deciding, you know, what's right and what's wrong and all of this other stuff. So, like, you can go on your way. Like, let the new generation take over and do what we actually can do, and, like, progress fast, like, farther and faster than you're letting us, you know, essentially. So yeah, like, I still think it's funny. I'm like, as an adult, I had an argument with another professional adult about coloring books. Like, oh my God. And it was multiple. Multiple people were very upset that I called art therapy. I called coloring books art therapy. And I was like, you know, and they were like, no, you're not allowed to have them. That, you know, ADA says you're not allowed to have them. ADA says that that's not art therapy. Well, they said that it was a therapeutic activity and that it's self-care. That's a part of therapy for me. I deeply encourage my clients to have self-care regimen so that they are not reliant on me. So for you to say that that's not a part of therapy, fuck you. Don't tell me how to do my goddamn job. You know? And yes, I know that I'm coming across very angry, but, like, again, I never thought as a professional adult that I would have arguments with other professional adults about fucking coloring books. Anyway, things to look forward to if you're an art therapist. All right, well, I hope this was very informative for you, and please let me know if you have any more, like, questions and comments. And, you know, I'm super excited that you guys, like, watch and like and subscribe to my channel. It really does make me feel like I do have a voice, and it is valid even in the community that, you know, is kind of actively rejecting me. All right, thanks so much. Talk to you soon.